Welcome to Booklandia, where we review romance novels.
This and every episode are chock full of oversharing and spoilers. Every episode is rated E for explicit. Hello, and welcome to Booklandia.
I'm Sky, and that's Ford. And I don't know why I'm introducing you, why you can't introduce yourself, but there we're at.
Look, I don't care. You introduced me. I introduced you last time. It was chaos last time.
It was. We're working on some chaos, yes.
I think that's all past, even though we're recording these episodes back to back. I think we've settled. We've now switched to alcohol, which is only going to make this better.
Yes, most definitely. I did switch tops, by the way, so that it would look like...
You did not tell me there was a costume change.
There was a costume change between the previous episode and this one. For those of you not watching, no, you have to go to YouTube just to see.
Fine, you know what? I can. The other is to do this whole episode in my bra, which I refuse. So instead, I'm gonna put on this giant pink Paris sweater. It's fleece lined and it's 95 degrees outside. And this is
you do not have to.
There's a costume change.
You already told everyone that
commitment.
Do continue. Okay, so today, speaking of commitment, today we are talking about Julia Quinn's Romancing Mr. Bridgerton and the Netflix series twined together, compared together, not separate from each other because they now belong in the same Bridgerton universe. And
yes. Oh, can we talk a little bit? Oh, thank you. Look at that Netflix cover art.
Yes,
right there.
Netflix cover
describe
art.
that, and then I want to talk about books and TV worlds together.
Okay, so firstly, if you've not done this and you are a Bridgerton person, particularly a Bridgerton TV show person, please go back to Netflix and turn on the audio descriptions and watch the sexy bits with the audio descriptions on. That person deserves their own Oscar for their performance of the thrusts and so forth. So good. It's so good. Also the very serious way in which this person says buttocks.
I was about to say, do they describe when you get to see some man butt?
Yes.
Because
yes, they do.
That is some good stuff that Bridgerton does.
Yes. In fact, I believe that this male voice actor refers to firm, tight buttocks.
Excellent.
Yeah. It is worth that month's Netflix subscription. It really is.
Yeah. Okay. Incredible.
Just for that. Okay, so having said that, this particular cover of the book features Luke Newton and Nicola Coulin. Colin? I think I did it right the first time. Conlon?
I think you did it right.
Oh, I should have looked it up. I know that she has a lot of letters in there that are not pronounced the way that they look when written down. And she is looking in the mirror, or they're both looking in the mirror. It's a shot over her shoulder into the mirror. And if you've watched the show, you know about the mirror scene. So this is foreshadowing for the mirror scene. Yeah, and then it says it uses all of the fonts that Netflix uses.
And it uses all of the fonts.
And then it tells you, just in case you're confused, that it is the Penelope and Colin story, in case all the other bits of this book cover did not give that away.
Well, so what they've done here is they've taken the fourth book in the series and made it the third season.
Yes.
So they had to tell the people, hey, skip Benedict's book, because we're just throwing a grenade in that, and we're going to explode that whole story into something completely different. But before we even get into our scripted questions, and I'm so sorry to jump on a topic while you're unprepared, books to TV shows and them existing in the same world. I agree. It has to be the same world because it's the same intellectual property, same concept, same characters. The first time I experienced this was with True Blood and the Sookie Stackhouse books, and they have to live parallel to each other in my brain for me not to lose my mind or hate one or the other.
Agreed. Yeah. So here's what I will say. For me, they live in the same world when the author of the original is involved in the creation of the new thing, which is true for Bridgerton. Julia Quinn is in conversation with Shonda Rhimes, is consulting. I guess the same was true of Twilight, that Stephanie Meyers was consulting on it. Heartstopper is a really great example because Alice Osman is writing the episodes. So she's really involved in the creating of the visual content there, and it shows. Like, it is really great. Please stay tuned for a different episode when I gush about Heartstopper.
Not this season. We haven't scheduled that.
Right. Well, now you know.
In the future. Yeah, okay. Okay, great. I'll prepare emotionally.
But so I think that to me is where I think they're twined. If we look at like The Witcher versus the original Witcher books or the Witcher video games, those creators are not involved in the making of the show. And so the two are, they have the same character names, but are not necessarily the same, right?
No, they don't.
At all.
They don't have the same
they don't even have
names.
the same character names. Right.
Yeah.
So not the same world. So that, I think, to me, that is the distinction, is if the original creators are involved in this new thing, then they are the same. Like, this is just an extension of that world, or an evolution of that world, as I will talk about the Bridgerton series, which I think is a completely new interpretation of the same world.
Would you say the TV shows that are based off of books that don't have creator involvement, therefore aren't same world, would you say those are fan fiction? They fall into that same category?
I don't know.
Because it's a completely different story based off of characters, preconceived characters, translated by another person.
But they are following the same
kind of, not in The Witcher.
Not in The Witcher.
Eventually not in True Blood. Eventually
not in Bridgerton, supposedly.
Yeah. So, like, this is a really, I find this topic really interesting, and I think we're in the middle of it developing into something not structural, but having words and language around it, perhaps. The difference between based on and adapted by, and like, I think there's no good, clear words for it at this point.
Right. I can see that. And we're having so many adaptations, and there's so much access to both the original text and the adaptation, because that's been happening constantly, right? But like, this gets into the conversation about the screenplay for Barbie, to me. Sorry, this is so off topic for Bridgerton.
No, I think this is great. I'm enjoying this, so let's keep going.
So, do you know about this? That the screenplay for Barbie was deemed an adaptation rather than an original storyline. So it was nominated as an adapted screenplay and not as an original screenplay, because it was
adapted from intellectual content.
It's adapted from the characters created by Mattel. So
I see. Okay.
But but the story wasn't. Like, the fact that her name is Barbie and that Ken is her supposed partner. That's it. That's all the intellectual property that is Mattel.
Then once again, I go back to, is it just fan fiction?
In which case, it is an adapted screenplay. So I was just like, it cannot be an adapted screenplay. She adapted nothing. Except apparently she adapted enough.
I think if you write something that comes with a binder of rules that you have to follow,
then it's adapted.
An adaptation. Yeah.
All right.
If you have to follow, I forget what it's called, but like when you have to follow the rules of a brand or a logo or a trademark or whatever, might be adapted.
I mean, I think that's the argument. So in that case, that is my argument here as well, is that these are all adapted and I guess therefore exist in the same universe, regardless of whether or not the original creator is involved. It's just how far that universe deviates from the original text.
Absolutely. If the original text is the sun, when do we get to Pluto?
Right.
Is it a planet or not? Yeah. I was thinking back to, like, I was talking about how we're kind of still in the middle of this, like, figuring out language around this topic, I think culturally, but like we've also been adapting things or, you know, books to movies for so long.
Well, yeah, and for as long as movies have been a medium.
I mean, books were the original content. Shakespeare, you know, how many Pride and Prejudices are there? So, and Pride and Prejudice is something we could probably go into, is all the adaptations there and how far from the books do they get? And are they still in the world? Are all of the Pride and Prejudices still in the world of the book?
I think yes.
And I would say the Twilight movies are in the world of the book because the fans were so vigilant about it. Like they demanded perfection. They wanted a 1-to-1 book to movie ratio. And so I think that was, I believe that.
Which arguably is not a good idea. Because not everything translates well.
That's true. That's very true. But like Harry Potter deviates the more the movies go on. So like, I don't know. Let's swing back to Bridgerton.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's hop on Eloise's rope swing and we'll swing back into the episode. That's a TV show reference, not a book reference.
All right. So I wrote you a blurb. It is about the book.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's maybe the both.
Okay, great. Can you, since I can't hear the timer, give me like a 10-second warning?
Yes.
Give me a little shaky 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Excellent. You count me in. I'm ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Penelope, we're off to a great start, has been placed properly on the shelf. I see what you did here. In this 4th installment of the book series. She is 28 and nobody wants her. And that should suit her just fine, since all the way to all the gossip she needs to continue writing is by being a wallflower. I'm reading it verbatim. But Colin Brigerton is back from gallivanting the globe. And if there is one person who makes her yearn for what could be, it's him. Will Colin ever notice her, or will she remain a spinster forever? And if he does, will he accept her for who she really is, and the clever and cunning, spoiler alert, Lady Whistledown?
I read that so many times. How Brigerton.
I do want to point out that in our script, you have titled this tab Bridgerton.
I knew that, and then I didn't want to go back. My dyslexia got the better of me, and the D and the B became one.
Yes. I started having that problem with P's and B's. They flip vertically for me.
So,
Bridgerton.
Bridgerton.
It's my favorite episode. So, I think, yes, it does translate to the TV show as well. The way the TV series and the books deviate aren't on this core thing of Penelope has loved Colin forever. Excuse me. He's been traveling. He comes back. She continues to yearn for him, but also has this kind of life and like how they come together.
Yeah. I really like the structure, actually, both in the book and the reason why they split the series in two. Is because the happily ever after is not the wedding. It's not them professing their love to each other. Actually, neither one of those things are true. I mean, both of those things are true. They profess their love to each other and they do get married, but neither one of those is the end of the book.
Right.
And or the TV show for that matter. And
yeah,
I like that. I like that she messed with the expected structure. That was interesting.
Well, I'm going to out you and tell all the people that you read this book and you read the first book and you haven't read 2 and 3. Like you read 1, you read 4.
That is correct.
Uh-huh.
What, I guess, where's the outing?
That you haven't read all the books, because I read all 4 and they all are structured this way where the wedding is in the middle so then they can have sex.
Oh, yes. I see what you're saying. I guess what I'm saying isn't specific to Julia Quinn. It's specific to the historical genre.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because in the first book, they get married so that they can finally burn for each other.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that is the structure here.
And book 2, which is Anthony and Kate, and it's a love to hate thing. I think like all of the black moments in the Julia Quinn books happen, I think, after the wedding. So it's definitely a Julia Quinn thing.
Right. So I guess that's what I mean, is that the structure is not traditional HEA.
Right. The happily ever after is the wedding. I think it made sense to me because she wanted to have some smut, but she also wanted to follow traditional historical cultural guidelines of you can't smut before marriage. So like that's her workaround.
In this book,
they
do smut before marriage.
But they are engaged.
That's yes,
right.
But literally yes, but
sure. And maybe this is I haven't read past this book, so maybe this is her slow deviation away from that structure, that really controlled structure. So interested to see if that is the case or not. But I liked it because marriages are fraught and there's conflict, and that the black moment being during the marriage for most of these books is more interesting to me than a will they or won't they. Because in some ways I think, oh, they already have. So yes, there's still going to be a happy ending, but there's more questions. How will it work? What will it look like? How will it change them? So I'm for it. I like it. And plus, I'm a pro smut, so give me all the smut. Give it.
Agree. Full agree.
For me, the most interesting thing about the structure of her books, so she wrote all of these in the early 2000s, and if the Wikipedia article I read is correct, she wrote 8 books in 6 years. So put that in your hopper. She wrote this one in 2002 specifically, and there is a lot of head jumping in this book, but in all of the books in this series. And for those of you who don't know, head jumping is where you go from one person's point of view and thoughts to another character's point of view and thoughts. So we jump back between Penelope and Colin kind of a lot. Well, not a lot, but enough. And it's currently in the 2020s considered bad writing to do that, which is why a lot of books now are structured. One whole chapter is someone's point of view. The next chapter is someone else's point of view. So did you like it? Do you feel like it worked with the book? Did you hate it? Did you even notice it?
The only time I really noticed it was in the first sex scene, because she jumped from one point of view to the other, like in the middle after she got undressed. And I was like, oh, actually, I wanted to hear the rest of this from her point of view. I don't care about his point of view. So it was the only time that I really like actively noticed it. But the rest of the time, it was just the way that this book was. And so it didn't bother me. But that was the only moment that I like actually clocked it and was like, no, wait, go back to her. I don't care about him.
I think I had, if not the exact same moment, a similar moment where I wanted to see either the rest of the scene or the next scene from another person, from the other person's point of view. And I think that's a really fun thing to enjoy while reading a book, is like, whose point of view am I going to see next? Am I going to see what I want to see, or am I going to be let down and taken down a different path? That's really exciting for me. Okay, so let's talk about the characters in this book. And this is the part where I yell, because I absolutely hated book Colin. TV Colin, fine. He's fine, whatever. He sure loves a long leather trench coat and those two-tone Hessian boots. That's how you know he is a rogue and he's traveled the world. He has that leather duster.
Yes.
The number of times the TV show had him in that leather duster, I'm like, oh, you're just trying to be Keira Knightley, Pride and Prejudice? Cool. God, like, he comes out of the fucking fog wearing the coat, and you're like, oh, right, okay, great. But I hated book Colin. And like, when I took notes on reading it in preparation for this episode, this is basically all I wrote, is how much I hated him. He was a presumptuous, like, snob, like whiny boy. He always interrupted her when they had a fight. He never let her speak. He would yell at her and then never communicate his feelings. He was just always like, no, you shouldn't do that because then people will hate you, and like never listened to her. And I just wanted to slap him. And I don't really feel that way often, but I wanted to hurt his face. And then they'd have these big fights, and immediately afterwards, they would have some sort of hookup that would progress their relationship physically. And it felt toxic. It felt bad. I did not want Penelope to be in this relationship with him. Book Penelope deserved better.
So,
and that is my
that's TED the talk. Soapbox. That's the TED talk.
That's my soapbox. Yeah.
So I agree.
No question, just yelling.
Just that. So I agree. Yeah. But I think this is the evolution of the character, right? They had the opportunity to write him as a person that, as a modern person, we would respect, and they did that. The thing that I think in the show, they did that in the TV show, right? Yes. He is so much more articulate about his feelings. It takes him a moment to get out of his stubborn maleness and into the vulnerability required to accept the fact that she does not require his protection. And she tells them that. There is still
and he tells her he was jealous of her writing earlier in the TV show than he did in the book. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. And then they do have one, like, they're yelling at each other, and then they start actively making out during the Bachelorette aftermath, like after they both leave their respective bachelor parties. And they yell at each other, and then they don't really resolve anything. I mean, she yells, I love you at him, and then they are up against the door.
Right. The TV show fixed him being a brat.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And he was definitely a better partner. And TV Penelope and TV Colin are fine in my book.
Yeah. So my question, though, is, so in the book, she's 28, but in the TV show, she's 18.
Yeah. And she's not as far on the shelf.
And I think, well, we're going to get into that in a second, but I think that, and Colin isn't as old because he's 33, I think, in the book, but he is much younger in the TV show.
Like 28, maybe?
Maybe, if not younger than that, but I think their youth.
Well, he is Daphne's older brother. She got married when she was 16, because that's when you are presented, which makes him 17 or 18 at that time. Makes him 2021.
Yeah. So them being 20 and 18 make some of their brash decisions so much more acceptable than them being 28 and 33. Because I wanted those book people to be adults and have adult interactions. But these teenagers, like, being rash with each other.
Underformed frontal.
Exactly.
They don't
frontal
know.
cortexes, they don't know. And so I was like, go for it, booze. Be your baddest selves so that you can tell stories about your irrational decisions later in life. Like, do you? So I prefer her at 18. I prefer them being younger because it also puts another bit of pressure on the historical commentary of marriage being thrust upon young people so early in their lives. Whereas I was like,
but nobody, that's commentary that we as readers, historical romance readers, understand and know. That is not context that either the book or the TV show point at. Okay, but tell me I'm wrong.
In the TV show, and I only remember this because I just watched this clip today, there's a tea, I think maybe in season 2. It's Queen Charlotte, Lady Dansbury, and
Lady Bridgerton?
Violet, and Lady Bridgerton. And they're talking about marriage. And Lady Bridgerton's like, it could be the most wonderful thing. And she's like super sappy about it. And then Lady Danbury was like, or it could be the bars that cage you at 16.
Yeah.
And they just like spar essentially about their experience of marriage. And about how one of them had this like fairy tale romance and the other one was chained to a husband. So
I guess it's not explicit. It's not explicit though. Like season 3, episode 1, it's not like Penelope, Arrow, she's 18.
Right.
You know, Colin, Arrow, he's just turned 21. Like they don't. Yeah.
No, they do not.
It also doesn't help that all of those actors are in their 30s, deep 30s.
I think Luke Newton is 24.
Uh-oh. Yikes. Deep 30s. Anyone over the age of 20 is in their 30s.
Perfect.
If they're on TV.
Perfect. There you go. But yes, no, I see your point that most everyone playing teenagers on TV right now are not, in fact, teenagers. And he isn't a teenager, but I think he is a little
closer
in
age. There have been some memes going around. It was like the age of the character versus the age of the actor.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't pay attention.
That's okay. So that I like. So anyways, I like the age, the age that they are in the show versus the age that they are in the book. That made some of it more palatable for me. Okay.
What I don't. Sorry, just to continue.
Please.
One more thought on this topic is what I preferred about her being 28 in the book is it increased the stakes and her confirmation that she was going to be a spinster and on the shelf forever. Yes. After 3 seasons, like at least in the books, 3 seasons isn't that bad, but 12? Because it will have, it would have been 12 at that point.
12, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, when she tells Colin, you need to kiss me because I may never be kissed before I die. It is kind of ridiculous, but also something that a 16-year-old would say or an 18-year-old would say. Like, their stakes would be that high.
At that time, you can die from a cut and an infection and but yes, it is kind of overly dramatic.
Like, it's very Romeo and Juliet of her, but I was like, but I believe her having that need, that desperation for that kiss when she's 18 and everyone around her is hooking up.
Yes, but it also works on the flip side when you're 28 and you've never been kissed. And also when you're 28 and you've been secretly writing for 12 years and it's all you have and you're fiance is telling you to give it up, telling you, not asking, telling you to give it up.
Yes, like, agree.
It messes with the stakes.
It does mess with the stakes because and like the believability of her earning as much money as she did in the 3 years versus the 12 years.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Plot holes. You know I love a plot hole.
Yeah, that's okay. It's okay. It's supposed to be a fun romp, which is where I'm headed next. Right. So this
is where the paths diverge in the Yellow Wood, right? This is where the show really starts to split, as well as not adhering to the book's timelines.
Yes. So, okay. So now let's talk about the mirror scene.
Great.
In the show.
Sure.
Which is this
is in his new apartment. It's just before the chaise lounge situation.
Right, so the chaise lounge situation, because that's right, that's the mirror scene in the show, is them having their first sexual encounter, penetrative encounter.
Sure, yes. Well, penile penetrative.
There we go. To get really into specifics here.
Let's do it.
It's when her cherry gets popped. How about that?
Yes, perfect.
So there is a different scene in the book with the same result.
Okay.
And it's the scene where I was like, please don't hop heads, and then she did. Like, yes, they have the moment with the mirror in one room, but then they go to a different room, like to his bedchamber.
Girl, never go to a second location with a man.
Exactly.
Like,
and she's like
rule.
willingly goes to get popped. I was like, what is
yes.
Right. So book sex scene or series sex scene? Because there is like the world is divided. There are people.
I think for me, from what I remember of the book scene, like I remember the TV scene because it's visual. I think it was the book scene, the book mirror scene for me, because the act of reading the language was more erotic than watching two people doing it on TV. Like, it's easier for me to be in that scene if I'm reading from someone's point of view rather than being a third person voyeur. Period. You?
And end of sentence. So, okay, firstly, outside of the sexiness of that scene, that scene, that interaction, that entire composition, and the intimacy coordination and choreography of that scene are incredible. All the people, so people are divided in that there are some people who are like, instead of getting this lovely moment between these two people, we just got porn. And I was like, I don't think you've seen
You don't
porn.
know what you're watching.
Right. But I was like, but also, I think
go back to season 1.
Right. Okay, sorry, but also, I do think that the language in the book is explicit. Like, there are no questions about what's being put where at what time. So I don't know how they have an issue with seeing it versus reading it. And I think it's exactly that, in that, like, instead of imagining something really Vaseline on the lens, they are forced to watch it. Yeah. Okay. The reality, I love that the actress was like, I'm going to be naked and you're all going to look at me. Yeah. I love that.
Yes.
For so many reasons. For current body standard reasons. And then for the fact that, and we, like, no one has addressed this, but historically, the sexiest woman in that ballroom would be a woman with her body type.
I thought at that time it was back to skinny, and then it became more like curvy women later.
No, skinny women were never in, because skinny women die faster.
Oh, sure. Got it. Yes. Okay, great. Fantastic. So we are reading and then therefore adapting current body type culture preferences. Got it.
Exactly.
So it's the writer's fault for making us think that.
Well, kind of. And then Netflix did this entire campaign trying to convince us that she's sexy. And I was like, firstly, no convincing necessary. She is ridiculously sexy.
Skin is incredible. She is fucking luminous. It's weird.
So, exactly. So, all of that. So, firstly, they like had to put on this ridiculous, it's not ridiculous. I know why they did. It's because the world at large doesn't believe that this woman is a sex symbol. Nuts. Absolutely nuts, by the way. But they did it, and hooray. So, I love that scene on the chaise for all of that, for all the representation, for how it doesn't shy, like she doesn't shy away from her body at all. And she's shy and plays it like a person who has not experienced this before, but not in any other way. The reason, none of that is actually the reason why I pick the series scene versus the book scene. The reason I pick it, though, is because after the fact, when it's over, they laugh about it. And the fact that they're like the whole trope here is friends to lovers. So their emotional experience of the moment and the fact that that is new for both of them, because it's mentioned in the book, but it's really shown so well in that moment that like he's never laughed with a partner before. Like it was this perfunctory thing that he's done before, but never with an emotional connection. And even though it should be this terrifying, awkward thing for her, it isn't, because she's with her best friend. And it's just pure joy. Like the two of them laughing when they get to the end of the scene, delight. Best part. I mean, aside from gorgeous naked people. Right? Just like top notch.
Sure. Great.
So that is my soapbox.
I have a secondary soapbox that is related to this, and it's not related to my question that I wrote in the script. So I had a tough time, not a tough time. I did not find the sex scenes in this season or really in any of the show so far sexy to me. And we talked a little bit offline about how the show season 1 was like super fucking steamy, and then season 2 was not steamy at all, and season 3 feels like kind of a course correction, like they're trying to get back on track, but it still does not hold a candle to the steaminess of season 1. And I just can't stop thinking about that, and so I have a few theories that I want to run by you about why that is. The biggest one that I am holding on to is I suspect that the actress who was the star of season 1, who played Daphne, got mercilessly bullied for being naked on screen. Because if you are a woman and you are an actor and you are seen in the public eye and then you get naked, the fucking male toxicity comes out of the woodwork. I had a friend who was in a Geico commercial or something, some sort of insurance commercial. She wears a full button up and a sweater over it, and the things she read to us about that people were saying to her on the internet were horrific. And she didn't even get naked. She wasn't even supposed to be sexy. And so I wonder if they toned it down. And like, it makes sense in season 2 that they toned it down culturally, because the female lead is Indian. And they have a different sexual culture. And then there were complaints in there trying to course correct, but like I think they're trying to protect the actresses a little bit by limiting how often they're naked, how much you see. And I just can't stop thinking about that. And then intimacy coordination and like, oh, we just see his butt and now they're covered in a sheet from the waist down, and like now they are blocked. I can't, it's very hard for me to step away from that. So that's my soapbox.
I see. I do think they course corrected in the second one, and I think it has to do with all of the viewers that found the chaise scene pornographic. I can't imagine what their commentary for season 1 was, because that entire season would be in that same category. But then season 2 is very tame. And so for all the people who have no comfort with on-screen sex, that they can watch that whole season almost in its entirety without that being on their mind at all.
Right.
It's all very closed doors. And then this season, I think the complaint I have with this season is that there are like 3 Benedict sex scenes and 3 Penelope Collins sex scenes, and it's the Penelope Collins story, so there should be more scenes with the 2 of them. And so to me, there was like, they did not quite get back on track. I do think that the choreography for the sex scenes is self-evident to me because I'm aware of the industry. But I don't know, when they get clever about it, I really appreciate it. I'm like, oh, this is like in the carriage scene, there's clearly timing involved. Like obviously, realistically, he's not touching her inner thigh, right? Like the dress is big enough, he's probably squeezing her knee, but they time it really well. And like the choreography of that really makes sense. Though he's left-handed in real life, and they keep making him do things right-handed, and it's just like so that's what. So in the chaise scene, the hand that goes into her inner thigh is his left, and that makes sense. Right. But there's some interview that in which he talks about the fact that he has to fence right-handed, because that and that it's really challenging. And then you can watch him switch the quill in one of the scenes. That he like clearly began by holding it in his dominant hand and then realized that it's wrong, and he switches it on screen.
Well, that's still the time where they used to punish kids for being left-handed.
Right. So he can't actively be left-handed, though, you know, this world messes with all the reality. So he could just be left-handed, but they made him right-handed in the show. And so there's like all these moments that I notice when they make him do things with his right hand. So in the carriage scene, it's his right hand, and I'm just like, man's struggling.
Oh, but you just said it was his left. I thought it was his left, but yeah.
No, it's his right in the carriage and his left in the chaise. No, I haven't seen it like 12 times.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Well, you bringing up Benedict brought me back to my question.
Yes.
About and I now want to talk about how the show is queering up the content. We've talked about it a little bit. We've talked about it a little bit offline, but it comes back to we see so many Benedict sex scenes, of which is him being part of a loose throuple or just a threesome. I think it ends up being more of a threesome situation, and it's his first sexual experience with a man, and we watch him have that decision to engage sexually with someone of the same sex. And I wonder if there aren't that many sex scenes because we're not going to do his book, and so it's really the Benedict, it's book 3 and 4 smashed together potentially. Well, they're just taking his book and spreading it out.
Right. The speculation is that the next book is Benedict. Or the next
season.
Yes. Because at the very end of season 3, Whistledown's voiceover is, it's time to look towards the future, and we see Benedict walking out.
Sure.
The shot is of him, and so that's been sort of like the implied.
And it makes sense since he's most of the B plot of that season. Like that, they're preempting to make him the main character. But like, this shouldn't be a spoiler. The book is straight. The book is, he is with a girl. It's woman. Yeah.
Sophie, right, is the name of the.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Yes. And she's she is like the daughter of a landed gentry, but she doesn't end up with anything. No, she gets screwed out. It's Cinderella. That's right. It's Cinderella. Her evil stepmother and stepdaughters take all of her money and take her dowry, and she has to become a servant for them, and then they kick her out. There's a love at first sight at a ball. They're in a masquerade. Yes, it's Cinderella. So, yes, it's that. You're correct, Sophie.
Yes.
But that book was so obviously Cinderella that it makes sense why they're not doing it verbatim. But also, you mentioned this to me in our offline conversation, is there's a lot of backlash about there not being any queer characters.
So there was a lot of conversation. Yeah, there was a lot of conversation about it. And now, and this will be a giant surprise to you, there are a lot of people who actually are not nearly as upset about B is for Benedict and bisexual, but there's a lot of upsetness over the final moment with Michaela versus Michael for
I don't.
Oh God, what's her name?
More words.
I'm trying, but my brain is blanking on it. The piano playing daughter is
nope. Francesca.
Francesca. So Francesca in later books, because you haven't gotten to F yet. So Francesca marries the guy we watch her marry in the show.
The guy who lives in Scotland, yes.
Right. But then in the book, she falls in love with his cousin.
Well, we learn in the Penelope book that he dies.
Yes.
They're married for 3 years and then he dies.
And then she falls in love with the cousin, which is how the falling in love with the cousin is okay, because he dies. So at the very, very end of the series, she meets his cousin, but she's a woman, and her name is Michaela instead of Michael.
I see.
And it's this.
I didn't know that because I haven't read the book. Got it.
And this moment that Francesca experiences is what people are referring to as gay panic, because like Violet talks a lot about like she tells this whole story that like when you meet the person you love, you lose all your words and you can't, and then that's the moment that we witness is Francesca being like, my name is, and then she can't remember her name, and so
she could
that
take a Slim Shady.
Right, so it is meant to be her like struck by lightning, love at first sight moment with this woman.
I see.
And the showrunners have also, I don't know how confirmed any of this is, right? But there's been articles where the showrunners have said that they're not killing off the husband.
Oh, okay. I kind of don't mind. Like, that actor was fine. He was fine.
Right. But so there's a lot of people who are like, how dare you? She's a woman. And then there are other people that are like, yeah. Duh.
Cool. Okay.
Cool. Actually tell us the story. Don't just like, it feels like a carrot dangled, and I hope that something comes of it, both in the Benedict storyline and in the Francesca storyline, because queer people are not a new development, right? Queer love stories existed through the ages. It's just that they weren't told.
It was illegal.
Right. So they weren't actively told. And wouldn't it be great if this escapist joyride had them unabashedly, especially since they already have a queer love story it's a Kill Your Darlings queer love story in Queen Charlotte, but they do have one. We do witness a love story in Queen Charlotte. It doesn't end the way we wanted to, but it exists, which was nice.
Sure.
Yeah. And it exists unapologetically. Like, it doesn't make excuses for itself, which is kind of great.
Yeah. I didn't watch that, Joe. So there we go.
There you go. Last thing I will say on the queering bit, I very much appreciate that in the we're away from the books now, but I very much appreciate that in the show, Benedict isn't having some sort of a gay crisis, right? He's not like,
yeah,
how could I? It's just like, do I want this or don't I?
Yeah.
And then he's like,
right.
no,
Am I
seems
into
like
this?
a good time. Right?
Yeah,
and like
I'm
when the
into
guy
this.
originally propositions him, he isn't like, ew, no thank you. He's like, I've been propositioned before. I got to think about it. And I like that his response is so rational and not like, oh no. Because that is sort of the a common storyline. So I appreciated that this was an uncommon storyline.
I want to put one thought in your head. Do you think Eloise is ace?
So I thought that Francesca was ace until they made her gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like she wasn't interested in kissing a man for a different reason.
Yeah.
But like she was so apathetic towards the whole experience that I was like, oh, there's just like not good words for the fact that she's not interested in a sexual relationship, and that's okay. And then they're like, no, she's just gay. And I was like, oh, cool.
Or she could be aro, you know?
Right. Sure.
Like probably definitely aro.
Right. She definitely doesn't care for a singular kiss she experienced with her husband. So
right.
I love that scene in the show. Her face is so good. It's just like, that's a thing I've done.
Yeah.
So again, in the books, Eloise is not ace. In the books, Eloise finally meets a person that cracks her intense
Let me guess.
veneer.
A man.
Yes, Captain Phillips, I believe is his name.
Not Tom Hanks.
Not Tom Hanks from that one movie.
Different story.
Different story. But yeah, so out of the two of them, I actually would have thought that Eloise would have been the queer storyline.
That's what I was thinking too.
A little on the nose that she is the feminist in the family and also the queer one in the family, but
sure,
those are not the stories that they're telling us. So,
all right. I mean, of course not. Shall we take a break and then talk about our favorite moments?
I know. This has been a lengthy one. Please stand by.
So good. I'm so excited.
We're going to take an intermission. When we come back, we will discuss our favorite moments from the book and if this book made us want to get naked.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I just kicked my microphone, so that's going to go very well. We're back.
It wasn't very loud at all. Hi, welcome.
Yay. Yeah,
back to Booklandia.
Back to Booklandia. Booklandia. We are talking about Booklandia. Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn. Sorry.
Or Bridgerton.
Or Bridgerton. Hey, it is what it is.
Bridgerton.
Words
and letters. Tell me, you're reading. Stop reading. Tell me what your favorite moment was.
It's not what I wrote.
Great.
I love his confession, is what it's supposed to say, as opposed to convection, which is.
It's not even convection. It's convection. There's no C. There's just a T.
Is what she said. I feel like is the response to that. Whew. Yeah. Okay. So I really like that he is wordy in his confessions because he's a writer and he's the sensitive one and it feels like an appropriate response for him. So in both the book, though more so in the TV show, he doesn't say I love you. He gives her this giant speech about how he just wants to like hang out in the shadow of her spotlight. And this is series, not book, but in the carriage, he's also very wordy before, and like she doesn't say too much, but it's him like spilling his guts out. And I love that we've met a sensitive man. Who's like actively trying to be a manly man and then realizes how bullshit that standard is and goes back to being the person that he knows himself to be. So his confessions is what I really liked.
This is my confession. It's a little bit of a twist on the Sunshine Grump. It's the precocious, outgoing versus the shy.
Yeah.
I agree the TV show did it great. I hated it in the book because once again, he's fucking talking and she isn't. And I hated that. And it was easier for the TV show to portray her shyness and let that be the excuse than it was the book. So that, like, the book fell flat even in that moment. I was just like, stop talking. You're making it all about you again. I was just done. I was out. For me, my favorite part in the TV show was not in the book, which is the Featherington Ball, where they do this grand reveal of these butterflies, the bugs. Like the butterflies flying around the room. And it also stressed me out because I'm like, if you've ever been to a butterfly garden, you have to be very careful not to step on them or crush them. And so I was worried about the butterflies for the rest of the scene because they were just being killed by rich people. And it's just like rich people to destroy something beautiful.
Probably what would have actually happened.
I looked it up. Butterflies are dormant at night, and so they wouldn't have moved when they opened the thing.
Right.
It's the reason why like season 3 or 4 or 5 of Drag Race, where someone tried to do a butterfly reveal, I think that's why it didn't work. It's because it was at night and the butterflies were fucking asleep. Anywho, that's my tangent. But that was my favorite part. I was like, oh, how lovely. And then after the fact, when I thought about it, I was like, oh, that wouldn't have worked. But I was in it. The fantasy was lovely.
That whole setup was hilarious.
Yes, and so good.
And they're like maiden of the house, like stressing and like chugging a drink afterwards. That whole thing was really good.
Yeah. It was so good. For me, my favorite part of the book was his writing. Because in the TV show, the only glimpse of his writing we got is him frequenting a Paris brothel. But in the book, we see him actually you don't see him. We read what he wrote about this lovely island beach and how warm the water is and actually interesting things. I don't know. I didn't really, it was obviously they were playing to be spicy. They're like, oh, we got to up the spiceometer on this season. Let's change this. But it made me care less about his writing. Weirdly. Am I being a snob that I didn't care about his smut writing? Am I being two-faced?
No, I mean, I don't care about his smut writing. I also didn't care about him going to a brothel twice. I don't know that I needed this was a show and do not show me, just tell me moment where oh, he goes to the brothel and has a good time, and then he goes to the brothel and doesn't have a good time. Kind of.
Because he caught feelings.
And I was like, there are other ways you could have illustrated this.
But what it also shows is that his brothel preference is threesomes.
Yeah.
Two girls. 2 girls, 1 Colin. And the fact that it happened twice, it's like, and then the third, are you setting up for a third thing or not?
Not.
And they never brought it up again.
They never brought it up again.
Not. Yeah. That's where it died.
Yeah. Hot take on the whole adventure?
My feelings are the same as yours. The TV show's better than the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story is richer visually by being seen visually. I think what they've done with the production values and the way that they've